the sweetest couple who I will tell them to touch base with you when we record. They're from Ireland. And interestingly enough, and my episode with Seamus Carney Martoni dropped today. They know him, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, we're talking to Sam today about being a guest on her show, and this guy that we know is on it this week." But lovely guys. For me, it's so important to tell the Irish gay dad story right now because, and any queer couple having babies in Ireland right now is just so messed up in terms of, like, one of them is allowed to be the legal parent. And then when their children are 2, because they happen to have twins, when their children are 2, then the non-bio parent gets to be granted guardianship that expires when the children are 18. Then they don't have any legal connection to the child after 18. Isn't that messed up?
Welcome to Fathernetics, Fatherhood Unfiltered. I'm Jamil. Welcome to the podcast.
You could never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby. You are gonna see that you'll never ever find somebody do it like me.
That is the strangest backwards. As I continue to have a lot of these conversations with people, Ireland just happens to be a hot spot for some reason. But as I continue to have these conversations, there is just no surprise on how these laws are twisted inside out. It's almost like it works fine if you're traditional for some reason, because they've made the law to cover something that happened somewhere. And now that the world is kind of shifting and changing and becoming more rainbow, it just doesn't work. And no one wants to listen to it. And it's unfortunate. And at the end of the day, I'm always thinking, because I talk to people about this all the time, it's like we're trying to find kids homes. It's like, think about on the adoption side, those that are guardians of the state or guardians of, I don't know what you would call them outside of the United States, but those that are kind of sitting on the bench, if you will, that just need someone to pay attention to them. How difficult is it to make those adjustments? We would rather have them sit in a group home. We would rather have them sit unattached, twiddling their thumbs in the wind, than adjust the laws to say, you love this kid, let's have him be with you until he's 18 or 20 or 21 or whatever. It's usually life, really.
Yes, yeah. Let them feel the love that they deserve to receive, because they've also got so much love to give.
These are people we're building for the future, and these are the people that cure. These are the kids that cure cancer. These are the kids that become professors at our universities. These are the kids that go on to build Fortune 500 companies. They create the next whatever iPhone thing comes out, right? Because they are so smart, but they end up muted because the system just will not let them get that leg up. And it is so frustrating the more I talk to people. But of course, there's the IVF side and the surrogate side as well that has some really obtuse rules that have people going out of the country and seeking places that are a little bit more accepting, not just of the LGBTQ portion, but of the surrogate portion too. Like today, I had I had a podcast drop today with Oak Surrogacy, and Tammy does surrogacy in Canada, and it's just a wealth of knowledge coming from the surrogate to say, here's what we do. We hear all the time about what you need in order to get a surrogate and the eggs in the system, but you never really hear as much from the surrogate themselves. So I thought that was awesome. Anyway, now I'm just kind of, you and I are in like the same thing, so we can talk about this forever.
It's true. It's very true.
All right. So Sam,
Yes.
introduce yourself to me. Tell me about how cool you are and how cool your kids think you are. And let's go from there.
Well, I think I'm cool because I have the opportunity to meet so many amazing people and put them in touch with resources that help them build a pathway of dreams for themselves and find their dreams come true. And it's not always easy. It's not always inexpensive, but I think for me, that's the coolest thing, that I get to bring to the table is just my connection with people. And I've been doing this for over 25 years. So I have the opportunity to have a lot of lived experience and knowledge base that I've been able to grow. My kids probably think I'm cool mostly now because they're getting closer to being old enough to want to have families of their own. My eldest is getting married next summer, and I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that he's old enough to be getting married, but I was younger than him when I gave birth to him, so I guess he's old enough to be getting married.
But it's still a mind trip because
Oh,
it's like tapping into, hey, remember time has passed, and you're like,
yeah.
oh, wait a minute, I am an adult or a parent. I still don't feel like a parent.
Yes. Yep.
It's kind of weird because I stand next to other parents and I'm like, you look like a parent, but I don't look like a parent.
Yep. Oh, I fully get that. I fully get that. Yep. I've got one getting married, another one who is not getting married but been in a relationship for 3 years, and I I need to be careful how I say this because I have loved every part of every age that they've been. I've loved watching them in their infancy grow and mature and develop their voices and develop their skills and develop their passions, and I've watched them exert their independence and figure out what independence meant for them. And I've loved that and supporting that. And now as adults, I love being able to go and sit and have my youngest is 24 just now, and he's he's a mixologist. He's gone to school, done mixology at school, and I love
That
for him.
almost sounds like a DJ, but
Right.
I know where you're going.
it's
I'm
it's
like, yeah.
not, but it could. I mean, usually there's good music when you're having a good drink, so they do kind of go hand in hand. But I love when he makes me a cocktail and we sit and we chat and we connect, and I just, yeah, there's something amazing about being the parent to adults as well. Although I feel like I'm the same age as them, and that's not. That's just so surreal. I'm with you. I don't feel old. I don't feel adulty.
So okay, so you loved every age,
Yes.
every kind of milestone,
Mhm.
but there's always one that stands out, right? And for a lot of people, it's always like, oh, the infancy age. I get it.
Mhm.
That's the cutesy, we all fall in love
Sure.
zone.
Right.
Um, Everything else is just butter after that. My kid's 12,
Right.
and we're going through those preteen milestones. What a headache. I don't
Right.
remember this from myself at all, but I mean, that just could be selective memory. But I mean, I am like, okay, what's going to happen today when he comes home? What's the story?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I, I feel like I'm going to love it after we get through it and go, wow, look how you grew through that. But right now it's like,
And that's true. I mean, I'm lucky. Like neither of my kids, both my kids are grown and gone. So I'm allowed to look with my rose-colored glasses back at the different phases of my children's lives and see the parts of it that I loved. And I'm allowed to discard the parts that I didn't love and drop those from my memory bank. But I do remember that. When you're talking about it, I feel the image that comes to my mind is somebody being sort of wrapped in a whole body wrapped in a nylon casing, and they're just constantly stretching against those boundaries that are keeping them kind of confined. And as
oh,
parents, we
that's a
want to
good
keep the.
description.
I don't know why that image came to my mind, but our kids are trying to push against those boundaries. But the nylon is kind of keeping them in because we're still there. They still need us for the basic stuff, the food, the transport, the lodging, all of it,
Can we
right?
just throw the bag away? Like,
Well, eventually, like most nylons, it rips, so then they break out of it.
I love my kid. He's adorable. He's the cutest thing in the world. Every time I see his baby pictures, it makes me want to tear up. So
Yeah,
I know that this is temporary, and this is the way to learn, right? You have to
sure.
learn what not to do by doing the things that people don't want you to do,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of that is really societal constructs to say
Mhm.
behave this way, don't behave that way. And I
Yeah.
think there's a careful balance between allowing your kid to behave in a way that may not be socially acceptable, but it's still educational.
Yeah.
Like the jumping on the couch is a good example. is that really breaking anything? Are they having fun? Are they like exuding happiness when they're doing, or are you just trying to protect something that you're going to end up replacing in 5 years anyway? So it's where do we draw the line? What's comfortable for us? Where is it more of an adult thing that we're
Sure.
trying to cure as opposed to a kid thing that we're
Yep.
trying to cure? So I think that's a daily parental, I won't say struggle. It's more of a learning pattern because we're all changing
Sure.
every single day. Who I was yesterday is not who I am today because of my kid in a good way,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And it's changed for us as well. Anyway, I do want to ask you, you are a family wellness specialist.
Yes.
What does that mean? Tell us.
Well, it's sort of, I put everything that I do together and gave it this title because it just felt like a mouthful to say that I am a fertility coach. I am a pregnancy, labor, birth, uh, postnatal birth doula. I am an infant feeding specialist. I'm a parenting guide. I do all of these things. And a lot of what I love is that a lot of my clients come to me sort of before their babies are even conceived. And then we're still working together years later when their children are getting older and needing, the parents are saying, okay, I've tried this and nothing's working. So let's chat so that we can reframe things so that I can try this out from a different angle, or I can understand why it's happening. Like one of the most common conversations that I have with parents is about transitions. Why is it so hard for my child to figure out how to transition from this place to this place, or this activity to this activity, or whatever it is? So when we start talking about what's normal for kids, and as you say, how much of it is us? How much of it is our own internalized frustrations about things that drive us bonkers?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with the word normal.
Right. Sure.
Right? Because we're all, I found myself as well. It's like, okay, is this normal for a 10-year-old? Is this normal for a 7-year-old? And I've never had a resource, right? I'm sure if I knew you
Sure.
back then, or if there were a plethora of family wellness specialists, which there aren't, right? There aren't
Right.
a lot of people you can just reach out and be like, hey, I just want to talk to you about, this 7-year-old's doing this behavior. Is this
Yeah.
normal? We're always talking to our friends about it, and they're like, well, I mean, I guess we have a 5-year-old, you have a 7-year-old. I don't know if it's normal. I don't know. So it's like, we'll
Right.
just see if it goes away, comes back, or so I think that is such a phenomenal place
Mm-hmm.
to be able to just have someone to say, hey, I saw this. It feels okay, but is it okay?
Yeah. Well, and everyone around us has an opinion. And,
Oh,
and
tell me about it.
right. And it starts from the minute you become a parent. And everybody
And it
wants
comes from those who are not parents.
right, right. Or from people who parented young children decades ago, where behaviors were different and what was accepted was different, but ingredients of products was different, ingredients of food were different, awareness of what we're eating and putting on our body and exposing ourselves to, and all of these things is just different. It is fascinating to me. My kids are kind of older, and so they didn't, the two that I birthed are older, so they didn't grow up with social media. Whereas my stepdaughter, who's 19, did grow up with social media. And
Oh, so you
so
have both of them.
we've got both. But we had to learn how to be social media folks as well. Like when they were introduced, we were introduced, kind of thing, all
At
happening
the
at the
same
same time.
time.
And we had to learn. And how do you, so, so everybody's got their opinion, and we're being exposed to so many opinions now. And the calls that I get where people say, I've had so many people say that when my child does this, I should do this or whatever, and it just doesn't feel right. Well, then don't do it. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And if it doesn't feel right to not do it and tell people about it, then don't tell everybody. It's nobody else's business. But we put absolutely everything on social media these days. And so we open ourselves up for the critique of how we're parenting too. Not because we're inviting critique. We're not saying, this is what I did. What do y'all think? We're saying, this is what I did. Isn't this great? And people are like, nah, that's not so good. That's not so good. You
So
should feel bad.
when people come to you with a plethora of, hey, I've gotten advice from the left, the right, the middle, and the center. I don't know where to go. What do you think? Right? In my head, you become opinion number 5. But how do you support them in saying, while this is an opinion, it does
Mhm.
have 5 layers of information behind
Sure.
it? Like how does that work for you?
The first thing we do is we talk about each of the opinions that they've received. You were told to do this. Somebody suggested you try that. You've thought that maybe what might work is this or whatever. Now tell me, what is it about that one that you feel is good or bad? And then we'll do that with each one. Are there good pieces of information in there? Are there pieces that you just want to throw the whole thing out? And at the end of the day, what does your instinct say? Because no one on this planet, and I will say this to every grandparent that's out there who loves their grandchildren fiercely, I will argue to my death that you love your grandchildren, but you will never love your grandchildren as much as their parents do. And their parents will always do what they feel is best for the child because they love their child as much as you love your children. And it becomes
Mhm.
this vicious cycle. So grandparents, I mean, and I don't blame all grandparents, and grandparents are amazing. I'm not trying to suggest that they're not, but that's where a lot of advice comes from. And a lot of parents say to me, I'm getting told this and this and this by my mother or my mother-in-law or my sister-in-law or whomever. And it's not how we want to do things. And so what do? I break it down with them. I just take it step by step, figuring out how you feel parenting should be for you is, to me, something that we can do in chunks. Like, let's not figure out how to parent a 14-year-old if what we have is a 12-year-old. We are going to, because 14-year-old life is, and the world that the 14-year-old is going to live in is very different than the world we're living in now. And if we ever needed an example of that, let's look at the last 11 months, right? 2025
It's
is a
really happening that fast, isn't it?
right? But it is. The world has changed so much from a year ago right now, right? Or even 13
Yeah.
months ago. 13 months ago, we never would have believed that we're living in the world we're living in now. So don't, what is the saying? Don't borrow worry or something like that. I can't remember what the old cliche is, but
I'm going to find it.
but stay present and then chunk it down. This is the situation that's coming up. This is the information that people are giving me or the advice that people are giving me. These are the pieces from what they're telling me works. Sounds like it'll work well. These are the pieces that don't. And for me and my family, what I need to do is honor us. And so this is what we're going to try. We're going to try
So
this.
let me ask you this. Let's flip it, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
really curious. This is a good conversation. So scenario based, as it equates to age, what we do in our home is we constantly tell Jacob, while you are 12, that doesn't mean you get to do 12-year-old things.
Mhm.
It all comes down to maturity level, right? If your maturity level is not at 12, then 12-year-old things are not for you, even though you, as a 12-year-old, are saying you should do that. I know a lot in the Black community, there is a lot of, my kid will never spend the night at someone's house.
Mhm.
Which is fine. Hey, parent the way you want to parent. I know there are
100%.
reasons and justifications that come out of that. Some of that fear comes from, again, parenting, grandparents who didn't allow it in the past because they were fearful of A, B, C, and D.
Sure.
And there are those things out there that you can mitigate if you really wanted to, right? You
Mhm.
pay attention to things, you invite yourself into people's home. I do that with Jacob's friends when he goes and spends the night. I don't stop at the front door.
No.
I need to go inside. I need to see the living room. And it's social, like, hey, nice living room. Where are the kids going?
Mhm.
But on the reverse, I've had it where some people will drop their kids off at the curb and they're like, we'll see you later. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I didn't shake your hand. I kind of know half of your name. Like, I have your phone number, but it's like, and you're gone.
Mhm.
To me, mind blown
Yes. Yeah.
that even happens. And I would never allow that. Right. But my question comes back to, do you have a lot of people that approach you and go, hey, is this okay for a 12-year-old? Which is kind of an obtuse way of looking at things because we're so guided by if you're 12 to 13, you should be able to do this. If you're 15 to 16, you should be able to do that. And of course, our laws are governed that way, right? If you're
Sure.
18, you're an adult. If you're 21, you can drink. If you're 24, you can rent a car. So what do you say about people that approach you with that?
I say that if they feel like they need to ask me, then they are thinking that it's not appropriate. Now, sometimes it's a dynamic if it's a couple, two parents together, whether they're co-parenting in the same house or they're co-parenting in separate houses. Separate houses is more often the case when something like that comes up. What is it about the situation that makes you think that the child is age appropriate for it or isn't age appropriate for it? Let's talk about that. Let's come up with the things that have given you reason to believe that your child is old enough to do ABC. And conversely, let's talk about the reasons why you think that they're not quite ready for ABC, but maybe we can help them get there by encouraging them to do these things in the interim while they're showing you their maturity. And I think one of the obstacles that I see come up often, and it's part of it's the world that we live in. Every parent wants more for their children than they had for themselves, whether it's something physical, like we want to buy them more toys than we had toys as children, or what have you. Sometimes it's opportunity.
Overcompensating, overcorrecting is what I
Sure.
often, yeah.
Yeah. Or we want to give them more permissions than we had as children, or whatever it may be. So sometimes it's more about visiting why this is important and what have you done to help your child get to a point to be mature enough and ready for this. I mean, can your child stay home alone at 18 or 19 if they've never boiled water, made their bed, like done anything, washed a load of laundry? Maybe they're not necessarily ready to be in the house by themselves, but a child who's had a part-time job since they were 16, or who regularly helps make dinner, or just has a general function within the house to help with the flowing of how the house functions, then maybe they are mature enough. Like it really depends on how we've set them up for success and how the kids have taken those opportunities to let themselves grow and mature, right?
That was a good answer. I think a lot of what our kids are ready for really comes down to what we've prepared them for. And a lot of times, the first time that question comes up, it's like, "Ooh, we haven't done anything to prepare for that." And again, it's okay to say, "No, you're not ready for that," because I haven't made you ready for that. Maybe the next time we'll
Mm-hmm.
be ready for how to handle a sleepover, right? And I think it's a lot of intentionality. Don't assume that they know what to do in sleepover situations, right? You need to
Yep.
explain it, right? If
Yep.
if you don't feel comfortable, you can call me at any time. Even you have to be very specific. Even at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Yep.
you can call me and I will get out of my bed and I will come get you. I think that level of, okay, you said it, that means I'm okay with it, is exactly what's necessary. And I don't think a lot of people know oftentimes how to have that conversation. They
Mm-hmm.
breeze over it. It's kind of like the sex conversation. Oh, I don't want to have the, come on. Like you need to be very specific about stuff like that,
Yep.
or you leave room for interpretation. And that's where trouble happens. Because
And
then they just color in the blanks, right?
yep. And you're right. I mean, and it's okay, especially when they're really important conversations. It's okay to have the conversation with your child so many times that they're like, "Oh, you keep asking me." Yes, I know. Because I'd rather my kids say that than I birthed two people who have grown into beautiful men. They're adorable, wonderful, amazing men. But I actually pat myself on the back when my eldest was probably 18 and I asked him for apparently what was the 750th time. Do you always ask about consent? Do you get consent every single time that you have any kind of a sexual encounter with your partner? And I know you've been dating for some time, but do you still get consent? And that was oh, Mom, you've asked me this 100 times. Of course I get consent. Okay, perfect. Then I've done my part. Like, I want you to make that growly noise at me when I ask you about something that's really important.
Okay, so how long does the I know phase last?
Oh, it lasts a long time. It lasts till they're paying their own
I
bills.
know.
And then it becomes a different kind of I know. Do you know how expensive lettuce is? I
Wow.
know. It's a
Can I be
different
a kid again?
exactly.
No, too late. That bus is gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did this all start for you? What is the genesis of this?
The genesis of this was it was an evolution, which most things in life are. I had a really crappy birth experience with my eldest where I felt like I was at the mercy of the people who were making decisions on my behalf, making them for me instead of with me. And I thought,
Mm.
nope, that's not how it should be for other people moving forward. And it wasn't even that it was a bad experience in terms of the birth wasn't terrible. But I just felt so unempowered. And I thought, okay, I don't even know what questions I'm supposed to be asking to give myself more power. Now, granted, this was almost 30 years ago, so things have changed to a certain extent, but not really all that much. And
Well, a lot of people go into the doctor's office and they sit and they listen and they go, uh-huh, and then they go, any questions?
no,
No. Because, like, to your point, what questions do I have? Like,
yeah, what am I
what
supposed to
should you be
ask?
looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I went into my pregnancy after studying women's studies in university. So I knew that had a feminist tilt and I was leaning that direction, and then had this birth experience and thought, nope, now what I need to do is I need to help people have better birth experiences. So that was sort of the evolution. And I got into doing that. I took some certifications to become a doula at the time. So I sort of work from the waist up. I do the emotional, physical, and informational support that someone needs through the pregnancy, labor, and birth process. And then I went back to school to do my adult education certificate or diploma so that I could teach childbirth education classes in a local hospital. Side note, that's how I met my wife. We didn't start dating for a few years after she was she was in my class, but I was teaching classes at a local hospital, and she happened to come in when she was expecting my stepdaughter.
This sounds like a movie. What movie is it?
It's awesome. I'm one of those few step parents who've known my stepdaughter her entire life, even from before she
That's
was born,
awesome.
which is pretty cool. Which is really cool. And yeah, so it's just been a constant evolution of me doing another certification, like a fertility coaching or a parenting coaching, and those kinds of things. I just keep learning more so that I can broaden my scope. And it was probably about 15 years ago where a friend of mine who's a local midwife said to me, "Are you doing work like specifically with the queer community?" And I said, no. I mean, everybody's welcome in my classes, but nothing specifically queer." And she said, "Oh, why not?" And I was like, well, that was a slap in the face, but you're right. Like there's lots of doulas out there, there's lots of educators out there, there's lots of coaches out there, but there's something special, and I know this as a queer woman. There's something special for me when I go to see any practitioner. My therapist is a queer woman. I want to talk to somebody who I don't have to out myself to constantly. And so I kind of just took things and went, flip. Okay. If you're not
Well,
queer,
there's a lot to be said about finding a pride flag where you're going, right?
yeah,
And I think that to your point, you weren't excluding it, but you at the time you didn't have something that says you're welcome here,
yeah,
which is what all of us are looking for, right?
sure,
Everywhere we go, we're looking for that small little symbol that says you are welcome here, that makes us, the shoulders relax a little bit, and we're like,
exactly.
okay, now we can talk to you about something because you're here for it. I always hearken that to when we went to Puerto Vallarta this year. I probably talk about this on my podcast a lot, but the city has so many pride flags.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you just go, okay, like I can walk into any store here and they're okay the fact that I'm with my husband, we're holding hands, we have a kid. It
Yeah,
doesn't look weird. It's not strange. No one's going, what's going on there? Everybody's in the know,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Everybody's clued in. So I think that that little nuance, I do see that on some of the agencies that I talk to. Their brand has some sort of a rainbow or some sort of a "we're okay with you coming
Mhm.
to speak to us," which I think is so important.
It it is, and yet I find there's this fine balance that I want to see the rainbow because it's important to me, and I put it up in my office so that when people walk by my office, they can see the rainbow in the window and they know it's a space that they could come into if they needed to come in to be safe. But I struggle when I pull up a website and they have a rainbow on their website. And then when you start looking at the stories of the team that of people that work there, there is nothing to suggest that any of them are queer, which isn't to say that a
Mm.
place it feels a little rainbow washing, if that makes sense.
Is that the corporate pride type of thing?
Yeah, and it can be small businesses, which again isn't to say that they aren't queer supporting, but when you put I guess if you're gonna put a flag on there and you don't have any staff that are queer, that doesn't mean you're not accepting, but maybe put at the word ally underneath, just so that I know walking into your site that you welcome me, but you may not always understand my perspective because it's not the same as yours. I don't know.
That's a good nuance
It's just
that
it's
I don't think
subtle.
people would pick up on. It
Yeah.
is extremely subtle because again, I like I said before, I see a lot of places that have the pride flag, but I don't know that I've gone in and actually said, okay, are they saying my pronouns are right?
Mhm.
That's a clear indication of
Yep.
we understand some of
Mhm.
what's going on in the community, not that they are part of the community,
Right.
but that they've read up on it. They realize the importance of that little, it seems minute, but to that one person it's a giant thing,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely.
Okay, now I'm gonna be looking at I'm gonna be scrutinizing everybody's website. Okay, about me section. What does it say? Uh,
Yeah, well, but for me, I mean, now I'm doing this as a podcaster who's sharing queer parenting stories. I'm, I have people all the time reach out and say, "Oh, I'd love to be a guest on your podcast. I love working with the queer community." And then I start looking at their website and talking to them, and they're like, "Well, no, I'm not queer. I just, I I love that you're an ally. I love that you want to support, and I think that's fantastic. I would like to have the opportunity to save space on my podcast for people who also work in your profession and who are also queer because they have a different perspective
mhm.
and when especially at a time like creating a family, we already feel so vulnerable. I mean, within the queer community, we're not the overwhelming majority of time, we're not creating our families in the stereotypical cis het normal way that we have an extra glass of wine on a Saturday night and 9 months later we become parents. We have to include other people. We have to let our walls down. We have to be vulnerable, expose ourselves physically and emotionally lots of times so that other people can help us achieve this goal for ourselves. And so being able to offer resources of other people who have a lived experience that's similar just helps make it feel less vulnerable for lots of people.
And we tend to really zoom in, or at least I do when I'm hearing stories on people who are part of the community, because it's like, okay, you're part of it. You've gone through some sort of struggle at some
Mhm.
point,
Mhm.
especially if they're my age, right? I'm 45. So that means there's some part of your life where you've gone through some sort of struggle
Mhm.
that is similar to
Yeah.
mine. Now,
Yeah.
today's generation is a little bit different. Obviously, they go through different types of
Sure.
struggles, but
Sure.
this any kind of struggle in the LGBT community is largely different than those who are straight. They of course straight people have their own struggles, but it's
100%.
not like the community
Yeah.
that they go through and trying to make sure that they're seen. All right, so you mentioned podcasts.
Mhm.
Was that an add-on? Did that come after, or did you start that and maybe progress into this space, this larger space, because you've been doing this for a while, but this larger space in social media all at the same time?
I started really expanding my social media probably during the pandemic, as lots of people did. I had extra time, so I just started playing around. And a friend of mine, a queer photographer in town, actually had reached out to me to do some publicity work during Pride Month because they were trying to do a virtual Pride event and asked me to participate in that. And I was happy to do that. And said something about TikTok. And I was like, TikTok is for kids. At the time, I had a 14-year-old stepdaughter. I mean, she's on TikTok. I'm at the time I was 50 years old. I could 50-year-old on TikTok. Are you crazy?
I mean, like
And
your mom's on TikTok.
you wouldn't believe how many times my kids have said, "Mom, you came up on my TikTok again." I'm like, yes, I did. You are welcome. So
This is your lunch money for today.
well, in Canada, we don't monetize TikTok the same way. So that's a whole other thing. But
whatever TikTok is feeding into.
Yes, for sure.
Whole,
no, you're
the whole
absolutely
machine
right.
of it all. Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
you're absolutely right. But then, so I started with that. And then another woman that I knew asked me if I wanted to do a podcast with her. And I was really kind of new to the whole idea of podcasting. So we had a podcast for about 3 years called Boobs, Bods, and Brains, all about women's health. And I loved it. But about a year into it, she said, "Why aren't you doing something like this for the queer community? Like do a baby show."
Oh, did that question come up again?
Yeah. Yeah. So she said, "Why don't you?" Yeah, it did come up, but differently this time. But her first thought was, "Let's do a baby show. Why don't you do a baby show?" And so I went to a baby show and walked around a baby show. Everybody knows where to buy diapers. They know where to buy onesies, but what they don't know is where to figure out how to have their babies was what as I walked around, that's what I came to realize. So I thought, no, less of a baby show and more of a family creation event. So that's kind of how the podcast evolved. And it's been 3 years, 120 episodes, and it's still going strong. And I'm loving sharing people's family creation stories. It's truthfully, it's just it feeds my soul. Feeds my soul.
I know. Well, in today's political climate in the world, and certainly here in the United States, it is so heartwarming to hear these stories. And I'm just getting started, right? My podcast started in May, and I've talked to so many people already. I'm really enjoying this process because everyone's story is genuine, right? There's really no fiction to it. It's not like grandiose, and I've added, all these extra things on the side that didn't happen. You really can't do that. This is your life story that you're telling, that at some point in the future, your kid's going to be able to hear and go, hey, my dad was on this podcast and was talking about me. And this is how that process started, which I think is quite the departure of what I would have been able to do, or my parents would have been able to do for me. There were no podcasts back then, unless you put it on vinyl. But
yeah. No, now it's probably easier to find a way to play the vinyl than it was 10 years ago. But
now they're so cheap. They're like, you have 3 vinyl players in your house. You're rich. All right. So what was your journey for your kids?
My journey was closeted, is what it was. I grew up in a small town. I had parents who
all in Canada, right?
All in Canada. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Grew up in a small town. And my dad owned his own business, so it was a family-run business. And there was an unspoken rule that you didn't want to do anything that was going to affect the good name. You don't want to besmirch the name of the business. And so I dated girls on the side all through high school. I've known I was gay since my earliest memory of knowing that I was gay was probably when I was 11 or 12. But I also knew I needed to do the right thing. I needed to fool everybody. And I married a man, and I had 2 kids. And I realized when my eldest was 11 that I needed to live authentically and I needed to live safely. And so I left the marriage and had a rocky time with my kids, with my extended family. And and I just needed to live my truth. And so, um, I got
Had to set the record straight. Upset the apple cart.
I really did. I really did. And it's interesting because retrospectively everybody's response was, "Well, of course we always would have supported you. We always would have. We always would have." Really, well, the little comments that used to make all the time when I was a kid about so and so and so and so, and did they live together and wonder what that relationship was like, or that's so gay, for every little thing. People don't even realize the power of the words that they use and
Mm-hmm.
how they create an environment that feels unsafe. So I did what I was supposed to do. But one of the best parts about it, retrospectively, other than my children, and I wouldn't change a thing to be able to have the kids that I do, is talking to my children who, as adults and even through their teen years, were just happy for me that I was living authentically, that they were grateful that I found the courage to be able to do that.
That is amazing because a lot of people will sit in that situation until their last days
Yep.
and unfortunately won't have the opportunity to be happy. I
Hmm.
mean, to be joyful and to just be unencumbered to a certain degree,
Yep.
right? And especially, I know where we sit now with all the laws and things of that nature, but the LGBT community has come so far. And now we see kids going to high school and being able to be authentic and be accepted and love, and everyone wants a gay best friend now, and that kind of a thing. But that all comes from changes in social media, a representation on TV, in movies, and books, in everything that we see online. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? You have
Hmm.
to have it all in order to have some of it. So I can certainly appreciate that.
Hmm.
And I think as parents now, we get to be a lot more intentional with what we're trying to deliver with our kids. The words that we use, how
Right.
we phrase that sentence, how we make sure that we're always educating and correcting without closing people off
Yep.
to, right? Kids are human.
Hmm.
We need to talk to them as such.
Hmm.
Um, we need to be able to explain things, not be afraid of that really hard conversation
Yeah.
that you need to have. It's uncomfortable, and that's part of life. I mean, you skip that step and you're going to pay for it later.
Oh,
um
that's it.
but I think you just need to make sure your kids are ready so that when they get out of the house at 18, 19, 20, some of them 30,
Yes.
that they're ready to spread their wings and fly, to use a very old
Mhm.
Bette Midler analogy, perhaps. All right, so what are your views on fatherhood? Because on Fathernetics,
Mhm.
one of the things that we like to talk about is how we're building the men of the future in the fatherhood realm. But it's not necessarily exclusive. Fatherhood is not just a male perspective. It is certainly the energy
Sure.
of fatherhood, which we all get from our experiences. I'm a
Sure.
father. My experiences come from my dad, my mom, my grandmother, my brother and my sister. My fatherhood energy also comes from Nicholas, my husband, who's able to balance things with me. We're able to have conversations about how we want to parent
Mhm.
our kid. So it comes from so many different sources.
Yeah.
Where do you see your parenting je ne sais quoi? Where does that come from for you?
For me, it comes from my dad. I have been a daddy's girl all my life. I love my mom. It's not to suggest I don't, but I am more connected to my dad, and just spending time with him, talking to him for hours, listening to his thoughts about things, about what he's doing and what he's hearing in the world, what he's seeing in the world, and the commitments that he makes and how he honors them and how he shows up in the world and how he shows up for me. I mean, when my marriage broke down, when I left, like with most people who say that who tell you their story of a marriage breakdown, they'll talk about the times that as much as they needed to take the steps that they took, there were times that they
Mm-hmm.
wondered whether or not they should have done it. Should I just throw in the towel? Should I give up? Should I go back? Should I? And when I was in my low points, my dad was the one who was there to just listen and just tell me that he loved me and honor who I was and where I was on my path. And
Isn't that crazy how much that is so important just to have someone there? Like,
yeah,
you don't have to do anything. Like, just
yeah,
listen and
yeah,
go, and that's it.
yeah, yeah. And my children had and have an excellent relationship with their father. And um, there were a lot of things that happened that made staying in that relationship unsafe for me, not the least of which was my own sexual identity. But there were a lot of other um, things that my kids don't know about and don't need to know about because it's not going to change who they are. But he was always and has always been an excellent parent to my children. And so I love that they have someone in him that they feel connected to. And I love that they're connected to my dad as well. My eldest will call my dad and they'll talk on the phone for 2 hours. Just I love that. I love that they have those connections. So I mean,
Is he nearby? Like, is he in the same town?
my dad, no. My
Yeah.
dad lives a couple of hours away and my son lives a couple thousand miles away from me.
Couple thousand miles.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. He,
Oh no. Are you an
yeah.
empty nester at this point?
No, we have an 18-year-old still living in the house. So,
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
but no, the
Time will
eldest,
come.
the time will come. My eldest lives much more north and much further west than I am here, just outside Toronto. He's over towards the Rockies, so he's happy and he's getting married next summer. So it's the right place for him to be. But wow, it's far. It's
How exciting.
it is exciting. It's terrifying. I mean, and I always worry that if he called me tonight and said, "Mom, it's an emergency. I need you to come." I think the hardest part is knowing that I can't just get in the car and drive and be there in a couple of hours, that I need to make flight arrangements and everything else.
Yeah, unavoidable for sure. So what quality would you say you have that you get from dad?
Compassion.
Or one of the 10,000?
One of the 10,000, I think compassion is probably the biggest one. My dad has a huge heart. He sometimes has a short fuse, although he hides it very well. He knows, and you can kind of read his body language if you know him well enough to know that his fuse is shortening rapidly. So you just don't poke the bear. But he has an overwhelmingly huge heart and desire to help people who truly need help, and he wants to be able to be helpful, and I think compassion and kindness is, I hope, the two of the best qualities that he has that I have. I try.
No, well, listen, I think that shines through in a lot of what you do on a podcast because there I think your manner, your way of engaging with people is very calming. I think it's very thoughtful. Because you're engaging such a wide audience, it has to be in a welcoming capacity to say, yeah, I'm giving you information, but if you don't like what I'm saying, feel free to message me so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I think where everyone gets stuck is thinking that they have reached the limits of learning. I know it all, right? Come to
Yeah.
me, I've got the solution. Do you really?
Yeah.
I mean, you have the solution today, but do you have the solution tomorrow? Does
Yeah.
it still apply?
Yeah.
Right? If we're unable to continue to learn, to add to that circle to make it bigger, then we're in the wrong business, right? It's what are we
100%.
doing?
100%. I love learning. And in fact, I just was talking last week or 2 weeks ago with my therapist about the idea of going back to school to take more courses. If we can't constantly learn and grow, then we stay in the same spot, and that's not helping our world move any further forward.
I agree. So the last thing I want to talk about is, I think we have to me, because I'm new to this podcast space, when I started this back in May, this was my first return to social media. I was gone from social media completely for about, I don't know, maybe 5 years.
Okay.
So the whole YouTube, Instagram, TikTok and doing it seriously, right? As opposed, I had a TikTok, but it was more like a watching TikTok. Like, you sent me a TikTok, I need TikTok app so I can see what you sent me,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That was the only reason I had it. But now it's like I'm putting out things. My face is out there. People are reaching out. They're saying, I saw this. I like that. I don't like that. Well, no one said they don't like that, which is good for now.
Yep.
But I think that I've always thought, like, in the space, it would be difficult to make connections with people.
Mhm.
The people I'm interviewing and talking to, they stay connected. They're very engaged. I feel like I've made some online friends. If I reached out to them, they respond, even though they have super large followings. Some of them have huge
Yep.
followings. But if
Yep.
I were to reach out, they would respond. I think that's super nice of them
Yep.
to do. But with other podcasters like yourself, I think you're the only one for now that's like, hey, let's get in this boat. We're all going similar destinations. Let's ride along together until whatever time is necessary to go in whatever direction. And I appreciate that about you, because it really makes it feel like you're not really doing this on your own. We're here to really help each other. This is not a competition. We're really trying to serve a community.
Right.
And oftentimes it's the same people.
It
So
is.
it's like, what's the purpose in fighting together? We're all here to hang out.
Yeah. I fully agree. And it's funny. I was thinking about exactly that when, you were a guest on my podcast, and then you were on Gatriarchs. And I was so excited to listen to that episode of Gatriarchs, because I knew that how they asked you questions, or what questions they asked you, or how you answered, because there had been time that passes, and life happens during that
Yeah.
time. And so your answer with me to the same question may be different, 2 months from now, because something different has happened in your life. And I was so excited to listen to that episode. And you're right. There are some commonalities between the work that we're doing and the people that we're communicating with and the people that are on our shows. But how we ask the questions, how we share the information, the people that we reach. One of the things I love is that if you're on my podcast, then the people that were listening to your podcast were the people listening to your podcast. But now some of the people from my podcast are listening to your podcast, and these little circles all interconnect, and it just builds our world bigger. But even more than that, for the people who are coming behind us, who aren't fathers yet, who don't have their families established yet, who are still in the "I hope someday I get to be there" phase of their life, they can see these intersected worlds and shows and feel like they now have this big circle around them of information and love and support that they can lean on to help them be prepared for their pathway.
It's such a big thing to be able to have a multiple, let me rephrase that. It's such a great opportunity to have multiple avenues to gain insights into what could be.
Right.
Right? Because when I was going through the adoption process, I didn't have any instinct to say, let me go find a podcast.
Sure.
Now, had I been on social media at the time, I may have come across it by just putting in the right search term. I wasn't on it, so it wasn't obvious to me. But just look at the opportunities.
Sure.
Over the next 3 years. There could be so many. All they need to do is listen to one episode and go, yeah, okay, I can do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please do. Like, we need the next generation of people to come in and change this world, because again, the last 11 months is showing us that we've got some catching up to do.
100%. You're absolutely right. Somebody's got to teach the lessons that need to be learned.
Oh man, because they've missed them. They've missed a few of them.
That's right. They skipped that class.
Okay. Well, listen, Sam, I don't want to take up much more of your time. This has been fantastic. You're online on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You're one of my favorite people. That when your stuff pops up, I'm there, because I know how important it is. From a mental perspective, right? I'm like trying to work the machine, but
Yeah.
I also know that it's important to be able to get this information out, and what you're doing from soup to nuts, right?
Yeah.
I think it touches so many different people, not just in the LGBTQ community, but just to be able to have a resource to say, yes, just reach out. Let's chat.
Yeah.
you know, and then whatever happens from there happens from there. But that easy button or that click
Yeah.
is so easy these days. I think
Yeah.
that's very cool.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate it. And I have to say, every time I see Fathernetics come up on my screen, then I just a smile, because I know that I'm going to love
Yay!
seeing what I see and hearing what I hear. So it's a mutual love and respect for one another, for sure.
Well, you're on season 2 now, so everybody gets to see my face and your face at the same time. So I'm excited
Wow.
about that.
Excellent. That's awesome.
Yay!
Yay.
Yeah. Progress.
Exactly.
Okay, Sam, I appreciate this. Thank you so much for
No
spending
problem.
some time with us,
My pleasure.
and best wishes. We'll keep
Thanks.
chatting on Instagram.
We sure will.
All right.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Do it.